This church to me is a safe haven. It's like a protection. You never feel like you are lost. It's a place to come to be safe, feel safe.
When your people.
This church was founded 140 years ago by Dr. C.T Walker, who in his day was just a phenomenal preacher, scholar.
When the building was founded by Charles T. Walker and was placed here in the Laney Walker community, it has always and still remains to be a pivotal point in the community and a historic landmark. Even though so much around the community has changed, we've seen businesses come and go, we've seen families, and we've seen some of our leaders come and go. Tabernacle has remained the same, and it has still been a driving force in the African American community here in Augusta.
It was the exciting thing to come into this church because it was so huge as a small child. It was like this big, huge place. And just I can't even, words can't even be said. It was just amazing, you know, the different things and the history learning aspects of it.
Architecturally, the design of Tabernacle Baptist Church really came from his drawings. I found that very, very profound about him not being, I guess, a trained architect, that he was able to do a drawing in which a true architect pretty much took from his drawings to build this edifice. And I also heard that C.T Walker wanted Tabernacle to be, if you go to any high point in Augusta, you can literally see Tabernacle Baptist Church. And from talking with some of the old timers, he wanted Tabernacle to, I guess, to have that self-identity all over Augusta. That at any high point in Augusta, you could see Tabernacle Baptist Church.
When you look at the architectural makeup of our church, it's amazing. When I came 18 years ago and I got a tour of the church, I was amazed. First of all, the facility is over 100 years old. To be that old and still be in relatively great shape is amazing. It really speaks to how the people have cared for the facility and really wanted to make sure that it stayed on the upkeep. But I also think that speaks to how it's constructed. One of the things that I noticed when I came is like, man, when you see the different curvatures of the architecture of this church, that's amazing. We've had some challenges throughout the years trying to get people to work on the roof and do different things, and they just did not have the equipment to fix it, which is astounding to me. That they've been able to construct this building 100-some years ago with not the same technology, not the same kind of resources, and they were able to do it. I think it's a beautiful architecture. Matter of fact, when Dr. Walker decided to construct it, it has a lot of symbolism. You see the 12 doors that go into our sanctuary, which represent the 12 gates going into the city of Jerusalem. If you go into our sanctuary, it currently seats about 1,500, but in its best day, it seats about 2,500. And the reason that I had to cut it is because they had to add an HVAC. So it's so many things that's so amazing. And so when I think about what they were able to do, it really just highlights to me the ingenuity, the wonderful expertise of African Americans who didn't have much, but were able to do much and create this wonderful masterpiece that many generations have benefited some 100 years later.
One thing that I noticed, and I sometimes, because I live near the church, I used to go to the parsonage and play as a child across the street, because it was across the street where the parking lot is. And then one day I was outside and I looked at the church building and I was just like, what is it about this building that something struck me? And I looked and it reminded me of the ark that they carried, the people carried the ark with them. And this church, the building structure is like the ark. And I said, each pastor has a vision. So that was the visionary thing I think that sets it apart from any of the churches that I've been to.
as you come into the church, you see the 3 beautiful arches, which is very common in African American religion. And when you look at the church, it's so grand. It is a very amazingly grand church with these 2 beautiful bell towers that you see. The church hasn't really changed much since it was created. Since the founding of the church has done an amazing job of historically preserving the church in a way that it once was. There has been minimal changes to the church or additions. Reverend Charles Walker is actually buried here on the campus. One of the things that makes that so powerful is because one of the reputations that Reverend Walker had here is that he gave so much to building this church and making sure that this church building and the structure and the architecture was beautiful, and that he gave so much that it probably drove him to an early grave. And it's very interesting that he is buried here because this was his home. And so we love that he's here and he's buried here in the resting place that he gave so much to. And so as you enter through the beautiful doors of the entrance of the church, when you look to the left, you see his grave site, and you can go to his grave site and leave flowers and honor him anytime and any day. C.T Walker was the first pastor of Tabernacle, and he was an amazing pastor. He was arguably one of the best preachers of his time. The New York Times quoted him once he passed away as the greatest Negro preacher of the day. And so you see leaders of the church, and also with Silas X. Floyd was also an early leader of the church as well. And so we see those 2 leaders really not only help Tabernacle, but they also promote the Laney Walker community and African Americans in Georgia.
We've had not only Dr. C.T Walker, but we've also had Martin Luther King Jr.'s come through. Rockefeller has graced us. Matter of fact, many presidents, William Taft actually was able to come and to worship at Tabernacle Baptist Church. And even within the last 20-some years, we've had great presidential candidates to come through. And we're always having people come through. And I just think that people are drawn to places of excellence. And that's what we hope to be, is a place of excellence. So I'm grateful to be a part of this place. And wherever I go, whenever I talk about Augusta, there's 3 things they talk about: the Masters, James Brown, and Tabernacle Baptist Church. So I'm grateful for that. And so I hope that we can continue to be attractive to many people. But I would also say it's not just the famous people you see. I think what makes this also a special place is the no-name people that may not get the acclaim, but call Tabernacle home, that grace our sanctuary every single week. That to me is what's powerful. So I'm really grateful for that. And I think that's what makes it attractive, is that this is a place where whoever you are, you should feel comfortable. And this should be a place where you don't mind coming to worship, to gather, and then depart to serve.
The records show that Rockefeller donated to the church, but he donated anonymously, and he donated as a friend to the church. Because of Rockefeller's contributions, the church was able to incorporate these amazing stained glass windows that you see throughout the church. There are over 100. And if you look at the front of the church, you see this amazing stained glass image of Jesus. And so because of Rockefeller and his contributions, the church sits here, and it is this truly amazing and beautiful structure that we see today.
The one thing I really like, because we were a church that was a community-based church where everybody would come. People would come to our Tabernacle for assistance, for different things that would go on, and we were very in the political aspect of it. Reverend Hamilton was part of the NAACP civil rights movement, and jobs, the sit-ins, things like that. Very, very community aware of what needed to be done here in the city, even statewide. You know, it was educational, teaching the community about voting rights, registering, and things of that nature.
So Tabernacle was a site for civil rights movement. It was actually the focal point. And Reverend Hamilton, during his tenure, was really a leader and an advocate for civil rights, and so much so that he invited a lot of civil rights leaders of the time, including Martin Luther King Jr. and also John Lewis, who spoke here at the church and who rallied here. And then also during the 1970s, after the Augusta race rebellion, Ralph Abernathy also came with Coretta Scott King, and they led a march here as well. And so Tabernacle has been the focal point of civil rights.
Born and raised in this community, the Laney Walker neighborhood, part of the Golden Blocks. The Golden Blocks was the black business community in this area. And this church was very central to the movement back during the Civil Rights period. And that's perhaps one of the reasons that I come back on a regular basis, because of that history. During the segregation period in this community, by this community being perhaps predominantly the black community, perhaps all of the black churches at that time was located within proximity of each other. Not only you had Tabernacle, you had Thankful Baptist Church, and then my church, Mother Trinity, CME Church. But this was, once again, as I indicated earlier, Reverend Hamilton being president of the NAACP chapter, this was the gathering place for you to get an idea of what was going to happen in Augusta, in the downtown area where the stores were still segregated, where you still had the black and white only water fountains and bathrooms. Yeah. And this community, as I indicated earlier, was nicknamed the Golden Blocks. And this was the black business community. This community was very, very self-sufficient. Any service or any aspect of a business that you needed, you could find it within the Golden Blocks. We had our own theater, we had our own retail stores, we had our own jewelry stores, barber shops, hair salons, you name it, it was here in this community called the Golden Blocks. And during my research, at one point in time, there was 122 black-owned businesses within the Golden Blocks area.
One of the reasons I think the Tabernacle has really just been a jewel to our city and others. I think there's some other great spaces within our community that's amazing. You can look up and down. There's one thing that I think we as a community, especially as African Americans, is that we understand how hard our ancestors had to work to have these things. That's why it's significant that we preserve them. You know, we're not in the thing of just throwing things away, but we have a lot of people who went before us. We're really standing on the shoulders of so many giants. And that's why we feel such a clarion need and call to make sure that we keep these buildings, that we keep these spaces, because they represent something bigger than us, right? Like, I really believe that we are living in generational blessings, which means that what they pass on to us, we owe it to the next generation to pass it to them.
Historic preservation is essential for our historic African American communities, and unfortunately it's something that has not been done very well traditionally. When you look at historic African American communities such as the Laney Walker community, or if you look at the Sweet Auburn community in Atlanta, or if you look at Tulsa in Oklahoma, you see these communities that were once so proficient, and now you see these communities kind of dwindle, and they are poverty-stricken, and they are riddled with homes that are condemned or in the process of being broken down. And when you see that, it is troubling. It is very hard to swallow, because you look at the history of your people and you see it being erased, you see it being uncared for.
We're losing that history that belongs in the black community, about the black community, and how self-sufficient it was, and how loving it was, and how you were able to, love thy neighbor, be a good neighbor.
Tabernacle is in the process of preserving their church spiritually and physically. And it's not going to be an easy process. Historic preservation is not something that is done overnight, and it can't be done easily or swiftly. But Tabernacle has the ability to preserve their space and continue to be a shining light in the community. And as my preacher loves to say, if we just keep the faith and keep looking up, Tabernacle will be around for a long time. The Black church is an institution that comes out of perseverance. The Black church, we see it rise up after the end of enslavement, after 1865. We see a lot of Black churches began to grow. We see Tabernacle comes after the end of enslavement, and we see also other denominations such as the CME Church or the AME Church, or the United Methodist Church becomes more proficient in African American communities. And so the Black church found a way to give African Americans hope after generations of being degraded and being made to feel as if they were less than. And the Black church was able to give people joy and give them pride. And also it was an institution to teach people about their history. One of my favorite things about Reverend Dr. King is that not only was he a Black preacher, but he also was a teacher, and he taught history. And I think a lot of times very well-educated African-American preachers do an amazing job of teaching their history. We see that with the pastor of the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, Senator Raphael Warnock, who was a preacher and a teacher and taught history, and now he's a senator and he's doing that same thing. And so we see the Black church as being an institution to not only come and worship God, but to also learn. And so that is the most important thing in the Black church for me.
Yeah, I think the uniqueness of our Christianity and our Blackness is very powerful to us, and one that we do not run from. I think we are, at the end of the day, we are unashamedly Christian and unapologetically Black. I mean, we are the sum total of our experience, and I absolutely love being a part of the Black church. I absolutely love the tenor, the flow, what we stand for, because we also believe that our Christianity is not just about saving souls, it's about impacting and empowering lives. And I think that's one of the things that I think Black Christianity, liberation theology is really all about, is that yes, we want to make sure that your soul is saved, but we do believe that Jesus came not just so that you will have an existential life in heaven, but we want to hope and pray that life can be better here on earth, which means that we're always advocating, as Jesus said in Luke chapter 4, for the least of these. He's come to open up the blinded eyes, to help those who are on the margins. And so that's one of the things that we really hope to be as a church, that I think is steeped in the Black church tradition, is, we come from people who've been kissed by nature's son, and we understand what it is to be the least of these, the margins. And so we always minister from the margins, but we also understand that it is our importance to let everyone know that yes, Jesus cares for you wherever you are. And so I think that kind of Christianity is a Christianity that's universal.
I think this church is history with its dynamic pastors that they always seem to get. And you just have that, I guess, generational connection here. And you're talking about members that's probably, that are still here and attending, that probably go all the way back to Reverend Hamilton and maybe even before him. But yeah, so I think it's, and with this new pastor, we're not new because Reverend Goodman been here for a minute, but he's keeping the energy. He's keeping the energy, and from what I'm told, C.T. Walker had energy, Reverend Silas Floyd had energy, and Reverend Hamilton had energy. So you're talking about a place of worship to build your spiritual appetite and to satisfy it, and quite naturally, after a long, hard week of battling everything within just normal wear and tear of living, you need that spiritual uplift. And I truly, whenever I'm visiting, I most definitely get my spiritual uplift right here at Tabernacle Baptist Church.
It's like the praise, and you get the songs and everybody's lifted up, and you have the momentum there. It's just by the time pastor gets there, they're ready. It's like the songs and the praising before that, it just sets the tone. It really takes me back. Sometimes it brings me to tears because it just just listening to the lyrics of the songs and things like that, and it just builds, and people become like, I've got this. I understand this. I know what it means to be committed. I know what it means to, be what God wants me to be, or that rededication moral part, and then by the time pastor gets up to preach, well, everybody's geared up and he's geared up, and, it's like, wow, they're feeling it. So by the time, I'm hoping that when they leave, that same energy is taken out in the community. If you have a child that's having problems, or a family that's in need, or they're on their last time, they're trying to make sure, how I'm gonna make it. But then by the time they left the service, they know, I got this, it's done, I have no worries.
Tabernacle is a sacred space because of the history that has been here, because of the leadership, because of the congregation, because of the members, because of the community. Laney Walker is a place that will go down in history forever, and Tabernacle plays a pivotal role in that. And because Tabernacle has done an amazing job of preserving its legacy, but we still have some ways to go. We received the Sacred Places grant to be able to continue to tell these stories and to make sure that Tabernacle continues to be a place of worship, but also a place of community and a historic landmark in the Augusta community for decades to come.
We will have passion. We try to be about attraction. We try to make sure that we're caring, consistent, and also about the teaching we do. So I think that is, in essence, what I love about this place, that we take seriously our motto, making an impact. But we also want to be a church known for what we can be. And so I'm excited for that. And hopefully and prayerfully we can continue to make that impact in the world and beyond.